I hope that you're watching this. This is a really important topic that we'll be talking about, and that is a good trend and a bad trend in America all at the same time, having to do with our best friends with four legs. Well, yeah, cats. They might be our best friends with four legs. My name is Steve Dale, and I will tell you a little about myself because I am supposed to introduce myself. So I host several radio shows about pets. I'm a certified animal behavior consultant. Having to do with Pet Partners, a great organization. I am proud to say I'm on their scientific advisory board. I'll talk a little more about Pet Partners and cats, and it's great that they're letting me do a cat talk. Last time I spoke here, I talked about separation anxiety in dogs. This time, I'm glad I'm talking about cats because Pet Partners certifies all sorts of animals if they can do the job, if they're appropriate for the job. And it's not only dogs to do animal-assisted activities, animal-assisted sorts of events, if you will. It's also cats. And more, we're thinking about using cats for these sorts of things. And I'll talk about that a little bit in my presentation, of which I'm going to talk really fast because I don't have much time. So this can be a 2-hour talk at least, and they're having me squeeze it in. I think it's 30 minutes that I'm supposed to talk. If you're here, please feel free to say hello. I'd love to see your name here on the screen. In addition to that, if you have any questions, I will try to pause, note I use the word pause, and attempt to answer those questions as I go along. The Win Feline Foundation, I am proud to wear this logo right here. The Win Feline Foundation, if any of you have a cat, pretty much everything, and I do mean everything we know about cats, was once funded at one point or another over the past 52 years by the Win Feline Foundation. I'm on their board of directors. So everything from what cats eat, what we know they nutritionally need. I'm not talking about the controversy about this or that. I'm talking about the minimum standards of what they need. I'm talking about what we know about diabetes in cats, what we know about shelter cats, and how today we know more space is a good thing, but why we know that, and we can show that and demonstrate that. Everything from identifying feline leukemia to helping to create the vaccine. And the list goes on and on of what the Win Feline Foundation has done. And very recently, and this has to do with human medicine. If there's time, I'm more than happy to talk about it. That's right, human medicine. Talk about One Health. Remdesivir, the only approved drug for COVID-19 to date, that was first wasn't really created for cats. It was created for Ebola in people. But we looked at that drug for feline infectious peritonitis created by a feline coronavirus. We all knew on the WIN board remdesivir was going to be it. We just did because of what we know about remdesivir and how it works. I'm a certified animal behavior consultant. If I didn't say that, I speak at veterinary conferences all around the world. I write books about pets, and Decoding Your Cat, which I'll talk about at the very end of this, is out, authored by members of the American College of Veterinary Behaviorists. I was honored to write the introduction. So enough about all of that. Hello, Nikki. How are you? You have a guinea pig. Hopefully you don't go on these adventures to hospitals or nursing homes with a guinea pig and a cat. I don't know. My PowerPoint, it's not going to advance much. Hold on here. I've got to find it. It's right over here. And hopefully you could see the PowerPoint. I have no way to know that. Welcome to the world of virtual stuff. Let me actually, hold on. This would be much better. There we go. Okay. I am talking about brain dead fat cats. And gosh, my hope is that you're actually able to see this thing. That was my piano playing cat, Ricky, if there's enough time. And I'm more than always happy to talk about this cat and why we had this cat play the piano. Actually, Ricky loved playing the piano. So we live in a nation filled with what I say are brain dead fat cats. I'm glad they're increasingly being kept indoors, but are they always benefiting by this? I am not suggesting that we should keep our cats outside or let them have access to outside freely, but I'll talk about that. So what is enrichment? At one point in time, I would give a talk about enrichment, and the whole talk would be about what enrichment is. I think most people know today or have some vague idea. It can be described as manipulating the environment to suit animals' normal behavior or encouraging the animal's behavior to match the environment. That's one definition of enrichment. Behavioral enrichment is a management tool through which wildlife caretakers, wildlife rehabilitators, and others can provide their animals with mental and physical stimulation using both natural and artificial objects. Behavioral enrichment also addresses the space limitations that sanctuaries must by necessity provide. Talking so fast I can't even keep up with myself. But you know, all of us have a sanctuary in a way for our cats. Whether you live in a studio in New York City, or for those of you that live in mansions, it doesn't matter. There's still space limitations. And that can be, it's another talk for another time, part of the problem we see when there are too many cats with too little space. Enrichment, the zoos know about. They've been doing this very, very well for decades now. This is at the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago, and these warthogs get different food at different times of the day. They have to search for it in their environment, and they have a choice of what they want to eat. These are holes that you see there that you kind of see in these artificial logs. The holes are filled with condiments periodically, not all the time. It's that unpredictability that's interesting for these monkeys as well. The monkeys use in their habitat, there's straw, and there are other things they can use. Sometimes they use their own fingers, and they poke the hole in, and they smell it first. It's barbecue sauce, but I don't like that. But I like ketchup, and this next hole in the next log over has ketchup, and that's what I will enjoy. It really depends, and it really depends is key for enrichment. Choice. Giving animals an opportunity to make choices that they want to make on their own. Can you share the screen for the PowerPoint? I am sharing it the same way I did before. I don't know what to do. Hold on, guys. I apologize. There I am. Screen share again. And now the PowerPoint has disappeared from my screen, even though it's right there. I don't quite know what to do. Yeah, what holes? Of course, you're not seeing it. I'm sorry. We kind of went through it in rehearsal. I'm doing the same darn thing I did. I swear to you. Can you see it now? And I have no way to know because I cannot see. This really isn't the best platform I've used because generally I don't have these issues. Can you see it now? No, we can't. I'm doing, I swear, the same thing I did. Hold on. We're taking up your valuable time here, and I'm sorry. I don't know what else to do. I hit screen share, and nothing happens when I click it. It's like it's dead. I don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do. Let's do it without PowerPoint if possible. Sure, it is possible. So zoos have done, I'm sorry guys, and it's a really good PowerPoint. Let me just try one more thing. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm hitting screen share. It's not even responding. So I don't even know that you can see me. So hopefully you can. Not that that's very interesting to watch. And you're watching from Argentina and you're getting a lame presentation. I just need to do this again for you guys. I feel terrible. But I don't know what to do. It worked right before we started. So zoos have done an amazing job of enrichment, is what I was saying. So one example are those logs, those artificial logs I was talking about. Another example can be also at the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago. They've got this. But all zoos, all accredited zoos around the country do this, and around the world do this. Zoos are way, way ahead of us as pet owners. They actually have a computer screen, and they have a chimpanzee FaceTime another chimpanzee somewhere else in the world. What they tell each other, That baffles me. I don't really know. But they communicate to one another. No one forces the animals to do it. They seemingly enjoy doing that. So we've got these cats, right, all over America, and increasingly to their benefit, I'd argue, we are keeping the cats indoors. You can put PowerPoint on Pet Partner's website afterwards. Thank you. And it says I'm interesting. Well, you'll be the judge of that when I'm done with this. We'll see. What was I saying? So I'm not very interesting if I can't think of what I'm saying here. So cats, indoors only. More of us are doing that. So statistically, I looked actually the other day at the American Pet Products Association website, and their not their website, the book that they have that's about this thick, with data about all sorts of things, including how we live with our companion animals. And more people indeed with every passing year are keeping their cats indoors. I think, don't quote me on this, the number's around 71 or something, 76%. Cats strictly indoors only. Sounds like a good thing, right? And I would argue it is. We know that cats that live indoors only overall live longer. We know they are less likely to have certain infectious disease that they could potentially get from other cats outside. I don't know of any indoor cats only ever, if they're truly indoors only, that get hit by cars. I mean, that doesn't happen in my house very often, where a car comes through or a coyote comes to the door, knock, knock, knock. Can I come by and visit your cat? That doesn't happen. And, you know, in parts of the country, there are people that actually shoot outdoor cats and ask questions later, right? They are definitely safer from poisons, from including antifreeze, by the way. The list goes on and on as to how cats are safer indoors. But when I talk to colleagues of my own, they say, but there's a problem, and they're right. The environments are not enriched. And they're right about that. Outdoors, cats do all sorts of different things, right? Now, cats are famous for catnapping. They do sleep a good % of the day. And I believe the number is 13% that they would, if they had their own wits about them, be out there hunting and searching. However, that's not the case in our homes. For the most part, that percent is less than 1%. We put a food bowl down and the cats chow from the food bowl, right? Or in some cases, we put the food bowl down and the cats eat, and most people don't have a cat. They have what? In America, 2.1 cats. So I don't know about that 0.1, where that is from, but they eat. I love the fact you take your cat on walks. I'll get there. They eat, and then we fill it up. It's true. They eat and we fill it up. Who's eating what? So if you have 3 cats in the house, how do you know which cat? You're at work, maybe. Well, used to be we'd be at work, but you're away from the house, right? You're not always watching that food dish. And you have 3 cats. How do you know for sure who's eating what? Also, cats, given their choice, that we know. So here's the thing. We know today that cats are social creatures. And if you see all those books in back of me, and there's another whole shelf over there of all of these books that are greatly about cats and dogs and some other species. In the older books, they actually say that cats are antisocial. That's not true, and you probably know that's the case. Outdoors, cats live in what are called clouders, which are groups of cats. They're groups of cats. I don't know so far that any public official has said cats must live in groups. No, they decide this on their own for a variety of different reasons. But cats do hunt alone, first of all, and they eat alone unless they have a youngster with them. And sometimes siblings, young cats, no longer kittens, but very young cats, will eat together. Sometimes. But for the most part, they want to eat alone. They do hunt alone. So that's not the situation we have at home. We have a bowl where we're crowding the cats. We're forcing, in some cases, a competition. And you say, well, my cats are okay with that. Maybe. But overall, we know that cats also don't demonstrate what they're emotionally feeling in the same outward way that people do, or in the same way dogs do. So yes, absolutely, some cats have adjusted to this, but some cats have not adjusted as well as you might think, and other cats clearly have not adjusted. This is part of the reason why we see some behavior problems that we see. All right, so the point is that we're feeding them all wrong. So we've got cats that are safer because they're indoors, but they're doing nothing but eating. And they're growing this way, right? We do have 60% of cats, according to the National Pet Obesity Association. See, that's where the PowerPoint comes in handy. I can remember names like that better. But what I do remember is the number is 60% of our cats are overweight, our indoor cats are overweight or obese. So that's an issue. Why is it an issue? Well, there's two things. First of all, the medical associated explanations here that I can offer if you want me to. I mean, we know that cats that are obese and are overweight is one reason why we're seeing so many diabetic cats today, but diabetes is only part of the problem. There are other medical issues related to cats being overweight and obese. It's one part of it. But the other part is I'm not alone among my colleagues in suggesting that many of these cats, particularly those that are grossly obese, we're lucky that it doesn't mean people don't love them. I'm sure they do. But we're loving them to death, kind of literally. And it's a psychological death. We're not allowing them to even be cats. When cats cannot groom themselves, they're fundamentally not allowed to be cats, if you will. If we're lucky, we know they eat, and they might use the litter box. They could hop up on the sofa, if they can get up there, and be petted. And we talk to them, and we love them. But they're actually, I would argue, many of these cats clinically depressed. So what can we do to change that? And we can enrich the environment. I mentioned Decoding Your Cat, a book written by the American College of Veterinary Behaviorists. And I just wrote a story for Veterinary Practice News and also the Journal of the National Association of Veterinary Technicians in America. And in that story, I talked to veterinary behaviorists also about enrichment and what we must do today. And veterinarians would say a year ago, 5 years ago, it's a nice thing. It's not a nice thing, it's a necessary thing. We need to establish the importance of this in a more profound way than we're currently doing. So how do you enrich the environment for cats? Well, I want to start with the way we feed cats. So cats, if they were left to their own devices, would search for food and hunt for food. I've established that we don't offer that opportunity for the most part in our homes, but we can. There are all sorts of devices out there, including the indoor hunting feeder or the indoor feeder. That was created by a veterinarian. I have a video of that you can't see, but it looks like a little mouse kind of, and it's plastic with a fabric on the outside that is supposed to replicate how it would feel for the cat's claws to dig into something. And what you do is you put it at first near the food dish, not one, but 3 or 4 of these near the food dish. That's 3 or 4 per cat. And then you move them further away, and eventually begin to hide them in different places around the house. As you put them near the food dish, when you first start this, by the way, you put treats in there to encourage the cats to manipulate. Some cats get the idea, just like that. Other cats, not so much. If the cat is elderly, don't listen to anything I'm saying. If the cat has other medical issues, don't listen to anything I'm saying. Always a good idea to talk to a veterinarian before beginning anything new like this. And it doesn't have to be all of the cat's food. It could be 50, 60, 70% of the cat's food that you feed this way. And you put these little devices, and it doesn't have to be this product. There are now, and this is great news, like 100 products out there that are kind of like it. I just happen to like this one. But there are many out there. One is a little plastic ball with a hole in it. It's called the Play and Treat Ball. I think it's $1.99. So some of these things aren't expensive. And in fact, I could save you even more money. If you have a cat that will not chew paper, a toilet tube roll. Come on, you got to have toilet paper, right? Especially now. So you take the toilet tube roll, you fold up both of the ends. If I knew I didn't have a PowerPoint, I'd bring props with me. You fold up both of the ends, you cut out holes in the middle, and you teach your cats to roll it around to get the kibble out. For those who don't feed kibble and you prefer moist food, fine. Take one of those plastic things that you put over the moist food when you put it in the refrigerator, and then put some moist food on that. Do you follow me? So it's what you use to keep the food fresh in the fridge. And then you turn it over upside down. Same idea. You teach the cats over time, not necessarily in one day, to look for these things, to search and hunt really indoors for these things. And you put them in different places at different heights. That's next, height. So cats are more like monkeys than people in some ways. They use vertical space. So where we live, we happen to have in our 120-year-old building that we live in, really high ceilings. You get the idea. I don't know how high they are, like 12-foot ceilings or something. I don't know. Really high ceilings. So we have I don't know that I could turn the computer around, but we have a really high cat tree. At the moment, we have one cat who's 17 years old, so she doesn't use it that often. But certainly, at one point in time, it was very well used. Windowsills, for us, old building radiators, bookshelves. You could donate part of a bookshelf to a cat. Just think of what you can use. If you don't mind cats on counters, fine. Whatever it is that you can use that's vertical, cats will use and, in fact, want to use vertical space. You could be so creative in what you can do as far as enrichment. It's not only about toys, it's about rotating toys. You can create your own toys. The idea is this, and it's a tough one. On one hand, we know that cats, more than anything else in the world, detest change, right? On the other hand, I'm talking about changing up the environment. So you have to do it in a way that isn't overwhelming to your cats. And every cat is different. So some cats want more change than others. I'm talking about food. I talked a little bit about toys. And by the way, the toys can be, once again, anything. So any of you eat eggs? So take the egg crate that the eggs came in once you're done eating the eggs and put kibble in it. And the cats have to use their paws to get it out. There are food puzzles available. Nina Ottosson dog toys work great for cats. There's a whole it's great news, long list of products that are out there that are available to do these sorts of things with. But cats live by their nose. So yes, the way we feed cats matters. Absolutely. Rotating toys, creating new ideas, new objects in the house. Who doesn't get a UPS package or a FedEx package now? You know what those packages are for. Those packages aren't for you. They're for your cats, right? What cat doesn't like an empty box? But cats, more than anything else, live by their nose. So put novel scents around the house. I just talked to one of those veterinary behaviorists, Dr. Albright, who contributed to the book Decoding Your Cat, for the interview that I alluded to earlier. And she said, what was it? Maybe wolf urine or something that she puts on a clean rag. You can actually buy this stuff. And I think that would be offensive and scary to a lot of cats, I told her. She agreed with me. You don't go that far necessarily, but there are some cats that would find that interesting. More dogs than cats. So with cats, we have to generally be more gentle. So a spritz of lavender, of your cologne, of your perfume, something like that in the corner somewhere. Changing it up that way is probably enough. I don't know that you need wolf urine for a cat, but these sorts of things can be, not the wolf urine, but the other things I'm talking about really are good ideas, because cats, like dogs, do live by their nose. That they have in common. So creating novel, interesting, not scary, but interesting scents around the house, is something we can do as well. And here's what we know. You know, number one reason why cats die, what do you think? I don't know that I have time to necessarily entertain the answers right here, but what do you think? Cancers, heart disease, feline hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, probably the number one cause of death between cats between the age of about 2 to 8 or 9 before cancers and kidney disease become. But actually the number one cause of death, behavior, right? When the human-animal bond fractures, so I'm talking about making the bond better, having a better life with your cat's having a better life with you by enriching the environment. But it turns out living in a dull environment may be deadly to cats. Here's why. At one point in time, cats who sort of thought outside the litter box were thought to have just solely always a behavior problem of one kind or another. And then at one point in time, the brilliant Dr. Tony Buffington said, I wonder if there's a physical explanation for this. As veterinarians back then, I'm going back decades, would give antibiotics to cats thinking automatically it was a bacterial infection. Well, today we know that most of these cats, not all of them, don't have stones, by the way, or don't have bacterial infections. They don't. So what's the deal? Well, he discovered had what he coined idiopathic feline interstitial cystitis. At first it was called idiopathic feline lower urinary tract disease. But what does that mean? Idiopathic means unknown cause, and they knew it had to do with the urinary tract, but that's all they knew. Having something to do with the bladder and the urinary tract, something's going on. And it hurt when these cats pee, so they didn't use the litter box the next time because they associated ouch with that litter box. Go outside the litter box, and then the human-animal bond fractures. So Dr. Buffington figured out this is kind of like cystitis. That's what he first learned, but then he learned more, that this combination of elements in the environment are actually causing the problem. And you could throw all the antibiotics you want to the problem. If there is no bacterial infection to treat, the antibiotics aren't going to do any good. And then they tried, at that time, drugs the best we could do at that time for anxiety, like amitriptyline, which really isn't an anti-anxiety drug in the first place. But secondly, it didn't work. You know what worked? Enriching the environment. That worked. And that saves cats' lives and potentially prevents exactly what I'm talking about, which is now called Pandora syndrome. Because it's not only the urinary tract that's affected, but it could be the GI system. It could be other things that are affected, because one of the biggest stressors for cats turns out to be living in a dull environment. And Dr. Tony Buffington has now demonstrated that with published studies. So here was Dr. Buffington demonstrating what he was demonstrating and now has proven over and over, and other researchers have followed suit. And there I was talking for a very long time at that time about the importance of enrichment. So now I've got science to demonstrate that this is really very, very important, not only to the psychological health, but the physiological health of your cat as well. Another reason is bored cats can get into trouble. You know, we think about dogs in that sense, but bored cats can too. So you come home and the drapes are all over the place, right? You have a young cat, maybe a kitten. By not giving the cat or kitten something appropriate to do, appropriate defined by us, the cats just are having, or kitten, fun because they don't have another outlet. So providing these natural outlets is not only important, it's necessary. I can't stress that enough. I'm trying to think of what else is in my talk that I wanted to talk about regarding this topic, and I think I'm exactly out of time, even though I started a minute or two late, because I believe I'm supposed to only go for 30 minutes. So if the powers that be, like Alex, can tell me if that's right, because I also don't want to go over time. I mean, I feel really badly, and I have no issue whatsoever with doing another talk or a similar talk again, because I feel you guys have been cheated. So yes, I will send my PowerPoint to Pet Partners, and they could put it up on their site if they so desire. Let's see if I have any questions here. And if you have questions, that might be the best way to do this at this point until I'm totally out of time. My cat will never qualify as a pet partner, as therapy partner. Oh, so you know what? This makes me think of something else. Enrichment, right? So what we're seeing more of, and I've got a great slide of this. You know, they look like baby carriages, and you can put your cat inside now and take your cat for a walk in that way. There are safe ways for our cats to be outdoors. Catios, that's the big thing now. So just so it's safe, the predators can't get in and the cat can't get out, I am all about that. Now, there are some cats that say, no, I just want to be in the house. But there are other cats who find that, and I'd argue most cats, especially younger cats, who find it really interesting to be given the opportunity to sniff and smell the roses, literally, to go outside and smell the world, to sense the world and sense their environment in a way that dogs get to, for the most part, every single day. Training your cat to go on a harness and leash can be wonderful. So back in the day, when these cat carriers first came along, I'll tell you a very quick story. We put our cat into that, really not a cat carrier, like a stroller, really, right? It's a stroller. So we put our cat in the stroller, and I've got the two dogs, and we're walking down the street, and my wife is holding the dogs, and I'm pushing the carrier, and I'm talking to my wife, and I turn over there, and suddenly I realize she's not there. She's like 40 steps behind me. She did not want to admit to being with me, I don't believe. And then another 2 blocks down, we see this lady. She looks, you know, what's in there? So I said, there's a cat in there. A cat? This very, I don't know, it's very unusual. And she's asking us questions about it and kind of poking fun at us. Like 3 weeks later, I'm walking down the street with one of our dogs, or both of our dogs, I don't remember, and I see this lady with the exact same carrier we had, the exact same stroller we had for our cat. So we started a trend in our neighborhood. So let's see, you can go over 30 minutes if you like. Well, you know what? Thank you, but that is up to you. So here's what I'll do. If you have questions or comments, then I'll take them and talk to Pet Partners. And if you request it, I'm happy to come back and do this topic or a similar topic or something, because I feel badly. I really do. I had some very cool videos. I'm not going to say any more about what you missed, because that's not right either. Let's see. My cat was born feral. We try to keep him inside, but he cries pitifully. Yeah, so that's a tough one. So for some cats that are, and this is a more complicated, so I'm giving you a short answer here. But for some cats that are born outside, that have lived outside, and we bring them into the house, that's a challenge in of itself. Actually, I said for some cats, I would argue for many, if not most of those cats. They've lived outside 2, 3, 4, 8 years of their life, and now we're putting them in jail. That's their perspective. And they may never, ever be really happy in our homes. I'm not talking about your cat. I'm talking in general here, right? And I'm actually opposed in some cases to doing that. Previously owned cats that find themselves outdoors, completely different situation. But those cats with genetics, and genetics matters, of generations of cats that have been outside and are terrified of humans, they may learn to trust family members over time or not. That's one sort of subset. The other subset are cats that were outdoors that really do well inside our homes, but also want to go outside. And some demand it. And for those cats, it's hard. I don't have any magic advice, except, okay, at some point let them out. I mean, they will scratch at the door, they will jump at the door, they will jump through a window, some of them literally, given the opportunity. But then they'll come back in days or hours. Then there's another group of cats that really do well in our homes. And they kind of want to go out. But if you enrich the environment enough in your home, I will suggest that that need to go out isn't there anymore. And then there's a different subset, especially of elderly cats that we bring in from outdoors. And they're like, oh my gosh, life is better. Air conditioning, this is way better. I'm 18 years old. I don't need it out there. I want to be safe, So it really depends on the cat. And I'm not sure I completely answered your question, except if there's magic to be done and you can convince your cat that indoors is better, it is through making indoors more interesting or as interesting as outdoors. Plus, there's you. And I presume there's a relationship that matters. So hopefully that answers the question. With natural sights up close, birds, gerbils. Yeah, so there are, I think this is maybe what you're getting to. There are all sorts of videos that you could buy of DVDs with birds and gerbils, setting up a view of, with the window with the birds flying by. That's great. Interesting to a lot of cats. Some cats won't watch it on TV. They want the real thing. The butterflies flirting by, all that kind of thing. If you have any other question, I don't know that I missed any. Argentina, that is so cool. So thank you for that. So I will say that my website is stevedale.tv. On my website, you can sign up. I just did one of these. My newsletter that comes out once every week, once every 2 weeks, kind of whenever the spirit moves me. I wanted to get one out today. I wanted to promote this. I got it up barely in enough time to do that, really. But in addition to that, I've got some other talks coming up, free talks. So a lot of those talks are for veterinarians, but some that I've coming up are open to anybody, for the general public, all of you, for sure. So there's links to those for starters. And also information about fireworks, which is, now for whatever reason this year we're seeing more and more fireworks. So, and it's not only dogs, it's cats as well, by the way. There are YouTube, so you're right. Tons of ideas. So my point was just to open up your mind to the importance of enriching that environment. Specifically, how you do it depends on your own cats, your own interest, right? A couple of years ago, here's one example. At a veterinary conference that she knew I was going to speak about enrichment. So a veterinarian came and she showed me a picture of these grocery bags, these paper sacks that her kids colored. And then what she did is she taped them together, cut out the bottoms of them. So now there's a long tunnel of paper sacks. The kids feel they were involved because they drew pictures of the cats or colored pictures of the cats on the paper sacks. So, I mean, the ideas can be anything. And I love ideas if there's kids that include the kids, because, so many of us think of all these things appropriately to do with our dogs. And the kids are involved in all that. They go to the park with the dog and everything. Well, with cats, there isn't as much interactivity all the time. So this is one way to create that. And what I didn't talk about that I love talking about is training cats. Why would you train a cat? A kitten's mind, I think, is a terrible thing to waste. And if cats, now raise your paw. How many think dogs are smarter? How many think cats are smarter? How many think they're about the same? So if most of you think they're either about the same or cats are smarter, and even if you think dogs are smarter, but they're kind of in the same category, why wouldn't we challenge our cats the same way we do our dogs? And if challenge is the wrong word, interact with them in a way in which we do with dogs. We can. And that's why I trained that cat of mine to play the piano way, way back when, around 20 years ago at this point. And at that point, it was wow. And it was before YouTube and all that stuff. That cat would have been a YouTube star because not only did Ricky the cat like playing the piano, but also did all these other behaviors. jumping through a hula hoop. If you had dogs that could do a downstay, even if he never met those dogs before, he could jump over a dog, another dog, or a young child, and another young child, another young child. He would give a high five and sit, and now there's the amazing part. He'd even come when called. I mean, you can train cats to do these things. And when you do that, I would argue a couple things happen. The human-animal bond is enhanced, first of all. And that's really important, I think, for obvious reasons. But the second is that cats sometimes can be very mysterious, stoic, can be subtle, can mask illness. It's the better way to put it. Well, maybe if you're more observant of what's normal for your cat, you can better tell if your cat isn't quite acting right. So there's also a medical reason, actually, for us to do this. It's a bit more exercise. I talked about all the overweight cats, right? And I failed to talk about how enriching the environment can create a bit more exercise for cats, but also training cats to take a walk down the street. And the cat may not heel by your side. That's fine. It's a cat. And I'm not suggesting that cats are dogs. They are happily, absolutely not. Having said that, they do have a mind of their own. And they are just as smart, if not smarter, than dogs. So we ought to treat them with that dignity, if you will. And also, I do argue that it benefits the human-animal bond when you work with an animal in some way, any way whatsoever, and you're intrinsically tied together. The human-animal bond enhances. Cats are smarter. They're harder to train. There's some who argue they're not harder to train. The secret is finding a way to motivate them. So for all of you, how many of you are going to come back and hear me speak again? Okay, one person may have said yes. I pay you $1,000. How many are you coming back to see me speak again? Now, all of you are saying yes, right? So it's a matter of motivation. And if we could find what motivates a cat, an individual cat, dogs arguably are easier to motivate in some ways for a variety of different reasons. But it doesn't mean that cats can't be motivated. And once we motivate them, I argue we could teach them pretty much anything to do, anything that a dog can do, and do it better. Let's see here. Oh, you're gonna, thank you, Dawn. Awesome. Well, I lost my place there. I'm just reading your comments or trying to. You mentioned lavender as a scent for cats. I've seen online it could be too much for cats. That's right. So you start with a little spritz. Remember, their sense of smell is so many times better than our own. So you start with just a little spritz in a corner on a paper towel, assuming the cat doesn't chew paper towel. See what happens. If the cat goes up to it and, whoa, jumps in the air 8 feet and goes, meow, okay, that's too much for your cat. Maybe any lavender is too much for your cat. However, if your cat's sniffing at it and like, this is interesting, that's interesting, that's good. Something like that isn't going to create a miracle. I mean, your cat's not going to cure COVID because your cat is sniffing lavender. I just want life to be more interesting. That's all. So that means that you can do it again and again and again, maybe over a course of weeks, and put that little paper towel with the spritz of lavender in different places around the house over time. As one example, it doesn't have to be lavender. We forget about catnip. It's old school, but catnip is great, for not all cats, but the vast majority of cats. They go, wow, this is the best thing in the world, Putting a little tuna juice on something, again, just so the cat won't chew it. Or if the cat doesn't have a special need as far as diet, putting in just a bit of tuna juice. Your cat knows when you're opening the can of tuna anyway, right? So put a little tuna juice somewhere over there. And then next time you have tuna, over there, let your cats find it. Dr. Something catnip toys are fantastic. I don't even want to say what that word is. Cats are smarter, so they're harder to train. Trainer must be better. I think the trainer must understand cats. And you certainly can't use aversives with cats, right? So you use training techniques that are aversive with dogs, they may come back for more and more and more. You're going to do all sorts of harm to that dog in a variety of different ways, which is another talk I can talk about. Cats, you do that once, and you get the middle digit after that. You're just not going to train them again, at least not for days, weeks, or months. You know, I think cats are forgiving, but they're not in the same category dogs are in that sense. You'll come back only for $1,000. Is that what you said? Are there herbs other than catnips? Yeah. So a study that was done, and I don't know them all, I apologize, but a study was recently done and found that silver vine, a little more expensive than catnip, I believe, but silver vine is actually more effective for a higher percent of cats than catnip. I forget what number 3 was, in all honesty. Sorry. Yeah, a lot of cats like, you know, so you can grow all sorts of cat plants. You know, there's a long list of them that are safe for cats to nibble on. And I just answered, it's on my blog, a question about this from a reader who said, among other things, my cat is chewing on all this stuff. Some cats just like to chew, and some cats like to graze, actually, and chew. So I'm probably out of time here, or running out of time. Is there anything else that you have? If you do, let me give you my email address, and that's petworld@stevedale.tv, petworld@stevedale.tv. I'll work out with pet partners if you request it. If not, you know, it's okay. But I can work out with pet partners how to do this talk with the PowerPoint, maybe on another platform, or maybe not touching it before I start, going back to a screen of me, which is what happened. We said, oh, why don't we just show you, and then we'll put up the PowerPoint again. But we tried to put up the PowerPoint again, and you saw what didn't happen. So again, I apologize for that. The book is called Decoding Your Cat, that I hope you check out. It is amazing. I was honored to write the introduction. It was authored by the American College of Veterinary Behaviorists. For all of you who sat in even without the PowerPoint and had to stare at me, you deserve an award. Thank you so much. I appreciate you tuning in. Bye-bye.